Sometimes the darkest secrets aren't just kept by killers. They are kept by those who should expose them. It's a lesson learned in a Texas hospital where babies were dying without cause.
The other nurses noticed that there were increased numbers of cardiopulmonary arrests on the ward.
Administrators suspect something is seriously wrong.
All her victims were children, the most innocent of the population.
Could it possibly be that a staff member is killing children?
Once it starts, it's very hard to stop.
Someone is keeping a dark secret.
This would not have happened if the cases had been reported to the medical examiner's office.
Get more Deadly Women online. www.investigationdiscovery.com. (1981) in Bexar County, Texas. The Medical Center Hospital holds a dark secret. Babies are dying way too frequently.
Say that they expected 1 a week, but all of a sudden they were getting 3 or 4 or 5 a week.
Administrators suspect they have a murderer loose in the pediatric ICU.
I don't think there was any doubt that they had a good idea of what she was doing.
They even have a prime suspect.
Somebody that has been trained to protect and save lives, not kill people.
Nurse Janine Jones.
I've had several cases that stand out in my mind, but this one is particularly heinous because of death to small children.
This darkest of secrets began because 31-year-old vocational nurse Janine Jones has a secret compulsion, a hero complex. She likes the idea she can save lives in an emergency. She is a super nurse.
When someone has a strong need to be seen as a hero, a savior, we call that a hero complex. When it becomes so deep-seated a need that the individual creates a scenario where they can rush in and save the person, that's when it becomes dangerous.
Janine uses a variety of drugs to stress her young victims, like blood thinners and cardiac arrest agents. She doesn't necessarily want to kill her victims, just make them sick enough to rescue.
That was her way of getting attention. She was a big person.
Code Red! Nurse Dave, Code Red!
Okay, just suspend the machine.
She was a big person when she resuscitated children, when she brought them back from death's door. And the rest of her life, she wasn't anything.
Janine chooses victims younger than speaking age, silent witnesses to what she does.
Signs?
There's nothing.
Are you getting anything?
I'm lieutenant.
But all too often, they remain silent forever because Janine miscalculates her poison. Criminal profiler Candace DeLong thinks Janine was searching for respect.
Somewhere along the line in her development, probably in adolescence and going into her years as a young woman, Janine realized that she could feel important when she was tending to defenseless people, especially children. It made her feel powerful and giving, and that she could be respected by other people for this.
Perhaps Janine is compensating for previous losses. Soon after birth, she was abandoned by her natural parents and handed over for adoption. At 16, her closest brother died in an accident. Another brother succumbed to cancer 8 years later. Cancer also took her father at age 56.
If a child feels unloved, that person as an adult may spend the rest of their life trying to acquire the attention and the love that they didn't get as a child, and engage in various behaviors, sometimes criminal behaviors, to gain the power that they did not have as a child.
Whatever Janine's motivation, her attempts at being a hero turned deadly. In one 2-week period at the Medical Center Hospital ICU, 7 children die. But her co-workers are starting to connect the dots and ask questions.
They noticed that all of them were on the same shift, and all of them involved patients being taken care of by Janine Jones. And they became very suspicious. They reported it to their senior nursing personnel.
But administrators don't take immediate action. The hospital reports no abnormal deaths to the county medical examiner and doesn't instantly remove Nurse Jones.
She was left on the ward even though they knew what was going on.
Only after agitation from senior doctors do administrators finally do something.
Someone said, well, why don't we just fire her? And then they said, well, she'll sue us and there'll be a big scandal. They were more interested in saving their reputation and not being sued than in the life and health of these children.
Dr. Vincent DeMeo still rages at this case more than 20 years later. He was Bexar County's chief medical examiner when Janine Jones' crimes finally came to light.
I would say that she was the worst serial murderer in the history of this county and probably in the history of Texas.
Dr. DeMeo finds it hard to choose which is worse, that a nurse could kill sick children or that her murders were covered up.
We're not sure of exactly how many children she killed because a lot of the records disappeared. There was so much cover-up. The bodies were never autopsied because the cases were never reported to my office.
Eventually, the hospital raises the training bar for ICU nurses. Janine no longer qualifies.
So when they adopted that policy, then they let her go from that unit, let go, by the way, with an excellent letter of recommendation, even though they knew what was going on.
Incredibly, a killer walks away from the Medical Center Hospital in San Antonio with a reference. Her dark secret is safe. She is free to kill again. The only question is, where? Amongst the darkest secrets in Texas criminal records is the case of Nurse Janine Jones.
They didn't know exactly what it was, but statistically it showed that Janine Jones was responsible for what was going on.
In 1981, Janine is suspected of poisoning innocent children, so she could become a hero by saving their lives.
She would create these medical emergencies, and she would know how to handle it, which made her look like a supreme nurse, as she would take care of the emergencies that she created.
But Super Nurse Jones isn't reported to police. Incredibly, she is allowed to walk away. Then she takes another job at a new pediatrics clinic in Kerrville, Texas.
She ended up here in Kerrville after she left San Antonio because of all these unexplained deaths.
District Attorney Ronald L. Sutton would be the one to finally end Janine's killing spree.
Janine Jones absolutely despises me because I brought down her little self-constructed empire.
When Janine Jones begins working in a Kerrville clinic, her new boss, Dr. Kathleen Holland, has no idea of Janine's dark secret. As she treats young patient Chelsea Ann McClellan, Chelsea has a cold.
And the protocol in the doctor's office would be the nurse, Janine Jones, would take the baby into a separate room, just she and the baby, and to perform whatever cursory examination, weight and blood pressure, whatever. But during the time that Janine would have these children by herself, all of a sudden they would become like a rag doll. And then she would scream out,
The baby's not breathing.
Once again, Nurse Jones is hailed a hero, saving Chelsea from respiratory arrest.
The need to do this is like a bottomless pit. It's never filled.
it kept happening.
Just 1 month later, little Chelsea is again in respiratory arrest after another routine checkup by Nurse Jones. Dr. Holland and Janine race with her by ambulance to the ER. But Chelsea doesn't survive this time. She's dead on arrival.
I think the death of her victims was incidental to all the excitement and the thrill she got from being involved in trying to save a dying child.
The initial autopsy rules sudden infant death syndrome, but closer inspection starts to uncover Janine's secret.
And that's when we talked to the anesthesiologist who said this child looked like it was coming out from the effects of succinylcholine, and we launched our investigation at that point.
Succinylcholine is a paralytic agent, and it blocks the neurological impulse from the nerve to the muscle. It's the blocking of the respiratory effort, so an individual basically asphyxiates to death.
The secret of Janine Jones' hero complex is unraveling. After Chelsea's death, she visits her grave and seems genuinely remorseful.
I think Janine may have been conflicted, but her need to kill was stronger than her need to not. And that was her mistake.
Janine's grief is a shock for Chelsea's mother, who happens to visit at the same time.
Janine, what are you doing here?
Why is a nurse she hardly knows at the gravesite so distraught? Back at the clinic, Dr. Holland discovers more incriminating evidence. Her vial of succinylcholine, a paralyzing agent often called a nectine, has been perforated by a needle.
And there were 2 holes in the lid of this bottle. One where she had withdrawn a nectine from it and attempted to replace it with saline solution.
The final piece of evidence comes from Chelsea's exhumed body. It reveals traces of a nectine. But as investigators close in, the most telling lead comes from Janine Jones' colleagues at her last nursing job.
And I said, well, what's her name? I said, Janine Jones. And the answer was, oh, yeah, the one who murdered the kids.
Nurse Janine Jones was a suspected killer well before she arrived at the Kerrville clinic. It is only Chelsea's murder that finally puts her away for 99 years, convicted of first-degree murder and causing injury to 7 other children. No one has ever been charged over the unexplained deaths at Medical Center Hospital.
This was a devastating case on the community, on the medical profession, on the nursing profession, on the county hospital.
To this day, Genene Jones maintains she is innocent, insisting that she has no dark secret, a common trait of denial from those with a hero complex.
The safest place for them to be for society is to spend the rest of their life incarcerated. There is no way we can ever know that they will not kill again.